Okay, these are notes 10.4, farm issues and populism. So we're going to talk about some of the issues that were a part of this time period. It's kind of a brief overview. Hopefully, some of your other assignments have given you a better understanding of populism. So one of the causes, or like the rise of populism, had to do with the struggles of farmers. So there was an increase in the supply of crops, such as cotton, corn, and wheat, um, and this actually made prices decrease. Goes back to that whole idea of um, supply and demand. So there was an increase in the supply of crops because in technology. I've talked about the plow and barbed wire and um, the grain drill. Those types of technologies actually increase the overall production of corn and wheat, which those influx of a lot of crops actually made the prices decrease. In addition to that, railroads were monopolies, so there really wasn't any competition for prices. So they would charge high prices on shipping, especially what was called like short runs. So when you were trying to move grain from maybe like one to the next town 20 miles away, it actually cost more than to run grain from um, a town maybe 100 miles away. So the problem is that farmers took out loans to pay for these increased costs. But banks also had inflated interest rates, so interest rates were also very high. And as this um, political cartoon right here shows you, um, the debt um, was very hard on farmers, especially because they had taken out these loans. The whole idea in this political cartoon is basically that the railroads are um, running over the farmers, and um, the trains are taking advantage of them. That's really the basis for populism. Now, it starts through what we call the Grange Union movement. This Grange Unit was basically a network of farmers' alliances. They worked to advocate for farmers. So they were really against monopolies of the railroads, for lower prices on railroad shipping, to set like a limit on the overall prices that they could charge. Um, it would put what we call a price cap on shipping, but also on grain storage. So when you take your corn to town, you could also, have it stored in a granary until a certain time, maybe when the markets went up a little bit, and then you could sell it. Well, that was also monopolized, and so grain storage was very expensive. The whole idea behind this is things that are favorable to farmers. They're very concerned about the overall monopoly, corruption, things like that. It's called the People's Party. It was made up of the Grange and the Farmers Alliance. Really starts as a grassroots organization, meaning kind of at the small level in states and state governments, but it begins to move up through the late 1800s as far as popularity. Now, Farmers Alliances connected local organizations from all over the country. They worked for the lower shipping rates and bank interest rates. Now, some of these were cooperatives, so where you would see like they would all go together and maybe buy a grain storage bin in town, and then that overall co-op would basically either hold it for them for a reduced fee. Kind of the same idea of like electric cooperatives today, where people that buy electric from the electric company also own part of like a membership with it. So you kind of own stock in the company. Same idea, except more with like granaries. And some of these cooperatives are actually still around today, especially in agriculture. Since short runs and long runs, sometimes the short runs were more expensive, the greater bulk that you had, they would receive lower rates. So they would band together and say 20 farmers would ship it all at the same time under the alliance and save money in shipping. In the beginning, they really started out being, the whole idea of, you know, no discrimination, pretty much everyone was welcome. But eventually they'll be separated by races. You see this right here. This was called the Colored Farmers Alliance. Now, the People's Party is what populism was. They wanted to build a party from the grassroots, meaning the small guy, and move up. So start with state positions first, start with governors, and eventually get up to the presidency. Part of their platform was the danger of political corruption. They had lots of ammunition with Grant um, and other politicians at the time. They also were concerned about the low money supply, meaning the Treasury was not making a whole lot of money. They were limiting the amount of money that was in the economy to hold back inflation. This helped banks, but didn't help farmers. And overall, the government was unresponsive to farmers. They didn't feel like their government believed in the things that they were concerned about or took any care to things that were issues. One of the forms that they did do as the People's Party is they connected to labor unions. This was really the big part of the populace that really determined its success or failure. Because if you could bring in the labor unions, you get the rural farmer and you get the urban labor union. This worked to a certain degree, but not entirely.